I've been working on a project lately on Bonanza that's kept me pretty busy. This is an old piano key piece that I bought from someone, really so I could learn how this worked. It's in some of my other videos. But the exciting thing I'm doing right now is on my playing. This was a few months ago. This picture was taken. I made a lot of changes since then. The original gauges here, they're pretty old, 71 years old actually. And although they're working, the oil temperature gauge stopped working a couple of months ago, and they're hard to get. They're pretty unreliable. So as part of the upgrade that I was doing in the playing to the instruments, which hopefully I'll detail in another video, was to get a new Electronics International cluster gauge to replace all 6 of these gauges here. Plus, for those of you that fly older Bonanzas, you know that our fuel gauge in my plane have 3 tanks. So you have the left tank and the right off, and then right tank that you have to flip to in order to see the fuel level that's on this gauge here. And then to see the aux tank, you have to come over and you have to flip another switch to do that. Also have the EGT gauge. Mine actually has the EGT and CHT gauge. This is an older one in my plane, and of course the vacuum gauge. So the new gauge from Electronics International just arrived, and I'm going to open up the package and go through everything that's going to do. But basically, it's going to eliminate a lot of work and give me a lot more accuracy in seeing what is going on with the plane, as far as the engine parameters, the fuel parameters, and a lot of other things. So I got the model CGR-30C cluster gauge. It does not give me CHT, EGT for all cylinders, just the one. But a lot of things are in here, and we're going to open it up. And over the next week, hopefully, I will get this installed, and we'll make videos of installing this one and share that with everybody is my plan. I've put in about 6 of these now. Most of them are the premium ones that have the EGT and CHT, but here's what comes in the box. You get the manual, all the instructions, continued worthiness. You've got fuel level modules to replace what's in there now. So this module, your existing resistive fuel gauge, which I did not change in mine. A lot of people think I probably should, but I didn't, connects to that unit. The next thing that comes out is the pressure transducer. This one will give me the new pressure readings. They're pretty easy to install. They're very accurate. So this is the manifold pressure transducer. So you can see it's pretty simple. It'll mount, wire up the voltage, disconnects to your manifold pressure line, and that will replace the manifold pressure gauge. It's another gauge that goes out. Also, the tachometer will go out. The next piece we have in this group is the EDC, which is actually the brain of the unit. So all the wiring connects to this one module. From that module, it connects to your display device, which makes it kind of nice and easy to wire and keep the wiring clean as you're doing it. We're adding the fuel flow. Didn't have that previously. It's going to be nice to have that in there to monitor the fuel flow, mainly for leaning purposes on here, and just to see what I'm getting. This is just some clamps and connectors. Got our CHT probe, our EGT probe, oil temperature probe. And this is what stopped working on mine. This will take the place of that. Almost impossible to find an original replacement oil temperature probe for the Bonanza in the original cluster. A few more parts to mount it. You've got your electric diagrams. This is your wiring that connects to the EGT and the CHT. Secondary connector, this connects to the unit itself. It's got the wiring diagrams. I'll go over that in detail as I'm installing it. There's another wiring connector. You see how they've got everything really ready to go. It's pretty nice how the folks at EI do this. This one connects to a lot of the other switches in the plane, the pressure switches, the manifold pressure switches, the fuel flow. All of it's pre-wired to a certain degree. This is an accessory kit. It comes with some things that connect to the mag, so you get the RPM. It also comes with warning lights that you'll see once we install it. USB, it keeps track of all the flight data, which is great to see. You've got a shunt for your ammeter. I'm going to leave that in there. You can probably see you've got power coming in, power going out, and then this connects, gives you your amps. It also has volt meter, which I don't currently have, which is going to be great to have. I've been using a portable USB charger that also reads my volts. This unit is another, this is for the vacuum. I still have vacuum instruments as a backup to the new ones that I've installed. So that gives me the vacuum reading and replaces the vac gauge. And then we've got the unit itself, which is going to free up a lot of panel space for me. It's tough to get open with one hand. So the unit itself fits in a standard hole. It's very simple to use, very easy. It's got one connector. It goes from here to the larger connector that I showed you earlier. All the displays will show on the one electronic display there. I'll no longer need my RPM gauge, my manifold gauge, my vacuum gauge, my EGT CHT gauge. I won't have to use the crazy switches on the piano keys to switch between the 3 fuel tanks. I'll definitely be keeping my piano keys. They look good. I just won't be having to use them for the fuel gauges. I still use them for everything else. The landing lights, the nav lights, the landing gear, the flaps, the beacon. I just won't need to use all of that. But this is going to be a great improvement to accuracy of what's going on with my engine, my oil pressures, my oil temperatures, my fuel flows, EGT, CHTs, and also gives me that, like I showed you before, the USB, so I can monitor how the flight is going. After the flight, I can look at all the parameters. I think it takes a memory sample every 1/3 of a second. It takes data points. So you can really take a good look at your plane and see how it's operating. But in the big scheme of things, for those of us that fly the older Bonanzas, the problem with older Bonanzas, which is very few actually in my opinion, is there's older parts in it. And some of the older parts we just can't get. And you know, some things were engineered oddly, such as the way the fuel tank worked with the gauge. This will resolve that. I'm looking forward to getting it in. I'm going to start this probably tomorrow actually, and I'll chronicle everything as we go.